Welcome to the Cybersecurity Matters podcast. Your hosts today are me, Harry Baldwin, and Matt Rose, two members of the cyber team here at neuco. And we're delighted to be joined today by President and Co-Founder of Action1, Mike Walters. Mike is a serial entrepreneur with a strong background in technical leadership and product strategy. Before Action1, he co-founded Netwrix, which became a major success story in the cybersecurity industry. Welcome to the show, Mike. It's great to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. I mean, we are looking forward to diving into all things you, people, and the cybersecurity industry. But to get us started, we always love to ask people, how did you first get into the cybersecurity industry?
It was my, I think, pretty much first job while I was still in college. It was my actually freshman's year in college. So I was lucky enough to get a full-time job. I don't know how I did both. I barely spent any time on studying and mostly dedicated myself to this first job of mine. It's been great. That company, I spent close to 9 years with that company. Ended up spending before then founding my first company of my own called Netwrix, and then
Yeah.
spend another 9 years in there. Actually, close to 10, and then I'm with Action1, and this is my third job in my professional life. And like, I haven't had not met too many jobs, but those that I did, I love them. I've always loved my job.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, it's quite incredible because usually when we speak to people in the cybersecurity industry, they've got lots of different tenures at lots of different businesses. So you've got a brilliant amount of longevity in the tenures that you've had. Keen to understand, growing up, was cybersecurity always a passion for you? Were you curious about computers and fixing and making things, or was it something that it was a bit more opportunistic and came later in your life?
It wasn't cyber. It was I've always loved computers. My dad bought me my first computer was I think I was 9 at that time. My mom said, I remember my mom said, like, why are you spending so much money on that? Like, it's not, he doesn't need it. It's like, my dad said, no, he does. My dad had no idea what computers did. He just knew it was the thing. And that was probably the smartest parenting decision he's done. Like, it wasn't supported by mom, but then mom eventually realized it was the right thing to do. So yeah, I
And
remember
look at the
myself spending like time back then writing down machine code and codes, like not even assembly language, but those machine code numbers that you could use to program computers. I was pretty diligent back then. Like, I had notepads all full of machine code. I just somehow I enjoyed it, and it just carried on throughout the years.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, I know I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's got some questions. I think his first one might be on biggest influences, so we might have had a clue already. But yes, thank you for your answer there, Mike, and on to Matt for questions on career.
Thanks, Harry. Yeah, no, as you alluded to, first question I typically always ask is, looking back at such a successful career, is there anybody or any point that you would put down to as the biggest influence on that journey so far?
I think after my dad, who influenced me to just accomplish things, because he's always said, okay, you just set a goal and accomplish, and as long as you don't give up, you can accomplish anything. So I would call him my first influencer, and then the second biggest influence that I had is the first company, my first job. The founders of the company, the company is called Alita, and it was sold to Quest by the founders, Ratmer and Andre, who then went on to create uh, little company called Veeam, which is a multi-billion-dollar business now. And what was so wonderful about that is it was a company of people just like me, and Ratner and Andre were very simple guys, And then when it happened, when that big exit happened, they sold their company for $100 million. But I was like, wow, how is that even possible? Am I dreaming or not? And I just told myself, well, can I do the same? Like, I mean, what's like, why is it impossible or not? It didn't seem impossible after looking at that example. Before that, I didn't think it was, but uh, you know, seeing is believing. You see other people doing it, you just set the same goal and you accomplish. And my co-founder Alex joined me in this endeavor, and it was a very successful run with Netwrix. It was a bootstrap. We pretty much put nothing, zero, even none of our own, not a single dollar of our own money was put into that. It was just sweat equity in its pure form, and we took it all the way to then selling to private equity. Super successful exit. Took it all home. Got all the freedom we ever wanted to set on continue the journey, because we're not stopping.
Yeah, no, fantastic, and it's great to see that you had role models like that you then went on to emulate so successfully at Netwrix and now at Action One. Um, what would you say to date is your biggest achievement so far?
Well, I think just this this well, there's always, they always say this second project mistake, second big project mistake. You become successful in one thing, and then after doing that you think, oh, now I can do pretty much anything. And that's a big mistake, because the you have to be humble, because it's always something new that you run into. It's never the same. You can never repeat your own success, because the times change, things change, and you just have to be mindful of that. And I think just taking creating our first company, Netwrix, was a really big success. It was really probably the biggest accomplishment in the professional career. And then using this experience and then translate this into this new company that we're building, Action1. It was a learning curve too. Like you would think, like, oh, we've been there, done that, easy to do. No, it's never easy to repeat your own success.
And what are some of those kind of biggest lessons that you learned from founding Netwrix to that you kind of have taken over to Action One?
I think the power of focus is the biggest thing I can name. If you ask me to use just one word, I would use the word focus, because focusing means everything. Because you cannot spread yourself too thin over different priorities. There's always this desire. Oh, like, adjacencies. You can do this and that. You can compete in multiple categories. But the thing is, you can't be an Olympic gold medalist in multiple types of sports. There's like, I don't know if anyone has ever done that. Probably not, because if you're a great swimmer, you can't be a great gymnast at the same time, right? So you have to be perfect, excellent in one thing, and this is the only way of becoming hyper successful. That's I think I would use this analogy.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting, and I was curious to hear a little bit more about kind of this shift in focus from Netflix all the way through to kind of Action One, and what that point looked like when you decided, you wanted to found and build something again. Was there a specific point where you were like, this is the right time to make this decision?
I think with the first company at Netwrix, we just felt like, okay, we've had great success. We built this company, but there's always this desire. Okay, well, now we have all this wealth of experience. We can do it right from the beginning, and just build it using all this knowledge. But I think we also felt like, okay, so that we have close to 500 people by the time we exited, and it was so wonderful in the early days when you knew pretty much everyone by name, and you walk in the hallway and you know all these people. But then at some point, past I think maybe 200 people, it's when you stop knowing that. Like there's someone in the hallway, and they say hi, shake your hand, and it's like, oh, who's that guy or gal? I was like, all right, it loses that charm at that point. It's like, okay, maybe we should go on and build something new and get back into that same excitement working with people. Between the two, we took a very short break. Just realized, you can't spend the rest of your time at the beach, even though it looked wonderful. I was like, oh no, like it's too early to retire. Let's get back to building. And after a few months, we went back and picked another category, another idea, and just made the same mistake. Interestingly enough, speaking about the focus, the power of focus, when with Action1, we were too broad initially, and didn't think about what to focus on. We didn't know exactly what to focus on, but I think we the mistake we made was not focusing on a specific subcategory early enough. That was probably the biggest thing. So could have done this maybe a year or two earlier in the journey.
And you've spoken before about keeping Action1 founder led. I'm curious to understand kind of why that's important and what that means to you.
It gives you freedom to make the right decisions. You're not pressured by your investors, your board. You're on your own. If you screw up, it's your fault. If you succeed, it's your accomplishment. And I think a lot of companies these days are pressured. So many companies that are investor led are pressured to do all the things that are wrong, right? Because the investors think in different terms. It's a different time horizon. Most traditionally, it's a 5-year investment horizon. They put money in, they expect an exit in 5 years, and they base most of their decisions on that, right? So, by the end of the 5-year time span, you're expected to accomplish a certain level of profitability. Like you have to make those decisions. Like what's going on? Like do you really have to be? And they start laying off people. Like, oh, like we have to be profitable. Like, why do we have so many people? Let's lay off some, so to show good numbers on paper. We don't have to do this because we're on our own. We can do what's right for the business, for the customer, and in the long run, this is what makes us very successful.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mike. I know that Harry's got some more questions centered around talent that he'd love to share with you. So I'll pass over to Harry.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And Mike, you kind of spoke about it. Like one of the great things about and one of the most amazing things in any industry is its people, and the cybersecurity industry is no different in that sense. I've got a couple of questions more specifically about talent and growing a business. So first off, I wanted to ask, like, as a founder, how do you think about building the right team around you specifically? How and when, what are the priorities for you when building and growing a business?
Mm-hmm. Well, building your team is probably the biggest challenge. I think it's the single most challenging aspect of any founder's life, because when you bring the right people on board, you become successful. You bring wrong people on board, you fail it. So finding the right people, retaining them, and maintaining the vision. These are the three things this is your job as a founder. If you're doing something else outside of these three, there's always things that have to wear multiple hats. care about different things. But these three priorities: finding, retaining people, and then and leading them to your vision. These are the three things you have to be extremely focused on to be successful. And when it comes to finding people, I think using your own network, people you worked with before, it's that's I think that's the biggest, the most important resource available to you. And you've been in the industry long enough. You do have probably you have a lot of people you can bring back on board from your prior companies. And always at the same time, you always have to be open minded, because people's life change, priorities change. People who were great before may have different priorities right now, and maybe they want to slow down and not be as hyper performing as before, which is sometimes okay too. I mean, as long as they're smart. But always be on the lookout. Always be hiring. Always be on the lookout for great people who can help you take it to the next level.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. And then on to the next one. What are the key qualities you look for when hiring people in the early stage of the business? Like what are the key soft and sometimes hard skills, I think, at this point of hiring?
I think the biggest thing is they don't have to be exactly knowledgeable in your space, because you're always tempted. Oh, you see this guy who's done it for the last 20 years, and they have plenty of experience and they know everything. It's always tempting to hire people like that, but I think the most important quality is passion about, and the ability to learn and the desire to outperform everyone else. These are the two things that are highly important, and knowledge comes with that. It's just a consequence of these two important skills. So always look for passionate people who are capable of learning. I think this is the advice I would give.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. I mean, look, that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing some of your insights into, how you think about building teams, the key qualities and advice, as you mentioned. I've got a couple of questions around endpoint security, vulnerability management, and a bit about Action One to kind of finish us off here. So, first question on that. How do you view the current endpoint security and vulnerability management market today, and where has it come from?
Well, endpoint security is many. It's a huge attack surface, right? So the if you think about different attack surfaces you have in your environment, so there's cloud systems. There's you have your servers, but the endpoint is probably the most unprotected uh, area, because people take their laptops and tablets, phones with them everywhere, and people working from home, people traveling, losing them, leaving unlocked, and clicking all those phishing links in their emails, and you have very little control over it, because they're not in they're not under your in your server room, they're not in your data center. So that this is very challenging. And then also the diversity of there's different operating systems, right? So there's Windows, Mac, Linux is no longer all on Microsoft as it used to be a decade or two ago. So you have to be mindful of that. Also, different kinds of applications running on those laptops, and to protect all of that, you have to employ different technologies. There's XDR, extended detection and response. There's vulnerability scanning. There's patching. So what we do at Action1 specifically is we manage patching. So we look at what's vulnerable, what patches are available, and automate patching, so you don't have to do this. Because this is one of the most, like, if you look at entry level jobs in IT, most most of them would have this, okay, you have to do patching. Patching is one of those responsibilities because this is something that a lot of people don't want to do, but everybody needs to do. And we just take care of that. Where, like, if you're looking for an entry level job, you go to work in the fast food industry, the McDonald's, the first thing they give you, like, okay, you have to clean those toilets. Not fun, right? So patching is like cleaning toilets in IT, and we love doing this because we take care of that, so you don't have to do this and you can focus on something else.
How how big, well, what are the biggest challenges organizations face when it comes to patching and vulnerability remediation? Like, what's the impact of some of those challenges at a business level as well? If you could talk to us a bit about that too.
I think that the biggest challenge these days, it's 2026, and adversaries move at the machine speed, utilizing AI to execute all kinds of attacks. And these recent developments like Mythos, being able to uncover decades old vulnerabilities in days, not it's just like we're living in a very different world now. So the volume of patches released for different software systems and operating systems is just going to exponentially grow, and the pace of deploying these patches becomes highly important. Because if you need, just in the last month, we've been looking at, we have our own research division, looking at most common vulnerabilities and like most commonly used software products like web browsers and all of those. And it's just orders of magnitude more vulnerabilities being discovered, and the pace of patch releases is just it's something that we've never seen before. So being able to deploy those quickly and before they get exploited, it is becoming more and more critical.
What does the patching space look like from a competitive landscape perspective? Because you mentioned it's a problem that has been around for a little while. How effective has the market generally been in tackling it?
It's a great question. In the first, let me just go back a little bit in the history of how
Yeah.
Action1 came about. So we looked at it broadly. Again, going back to this initial lack of focus, it was like, okay, there's so many things you can do in endpoint management. Patching is one of them. I was like, but this is so old and unsexy, and it's a multiple decades old problem, and 100 vendors doing that. Maybe not something we want to do. Let's look at something else. But as we started talking to more and more of our early adopters, we determined that 80% of them name patching as the primary use case. And we asked them why. It's a decades old problem. Uh, they say, well, because it's still unsolved. All those vendors that claim to do it, they do, but to them, it's more of a checkbox they checked by claiming that they do patching, and they never actually figured that out. Or they figured that out at some point, but then just let it sit on the sidelines and went to do something else. But patching is an ever evolving problem, and if you don't stay focused on that, and if you don't uh, constantly invest into its development, you just fall behind very quickly. And this is what makes us different and unique from everyone else on the market, is our hyper focus on patching, where we just don't do anything else. Like, we wake up in the morning, we think about patching, we go to bed, we think about patching. So our customers don't have to do this.
Yeah. Absolutely, fantastic. And how do you expect the patching and also vulnerability management space to develop over the next few years? Do you see it being as, because everyone talks about the impact of AI specifically, do you feel like it's an area which will be aggressively impacted by that?
Well, what's going to become really aggressive is the pace of patching, due to the speed of new threats evolving and the need to patch. So it's going to accelerate tremendously. Now, in terms of the technology itself, we're going to move a shift more towards more autonomous patching, so more decisions made. Like if there's a 0 day vulnerability, for example, in a patch is already available, then machines can make. So in certain cases, it can make a decision. Like I still can't see uh, an AI making a decision to mass patch uh, 100,000 endpoints when a zero, even if a 0 day comes. But what it could at least do is it could start testing. So while you're still sleeping, so that there's a 0 day discovered in the middle of the night, it gets published, proof of concept is online. Your AI system could capture that and start deploying this in your test lab in what they call ring zero of testing some of the available updates, and possibly even developing a hot patch based on that, because systems like Mythos and their successors in the future, they say it might be possible at some point to just look at the proof of concept code and just develop a binary patch that can go on your systems tonight or even next hour, and then deploy. So that it could possibly evolve into that. We have yet to see how powerful these systems can become, but the need for patching is not going to be going anywhere. It's only going to increase and increase by a lot. So this is as a company doing patching, you can imagine how excited we are about this, even though it will get challenging for so many of our customers to be being able to, like, people will have to change their way of thinking. So what used to be fine, 10 day 30-day testing cycles, no, that you can't do this anymore. So it's gonna collapse into days, if not hours, for certain types of vulnerabilities that you need to patch a lot quicker than it used to be acceptable.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, I loved some of your answers there, Mike, particularly on the power of focus and patching being the cleaning the toilets of
Yes.
cybersecurity. I love it. No, it's really interesting. I think it ties into the fact that it is an age-old problem that you guys are really trying to solve, and a problem that everyone has that's universal across the industry. I think there's something really inspiring and
It is
interesting about that
universal. If you
too.
think about, like, there's no one in the world in IT who doesn't need patching. It is a universal need. That this is what makes it amazing. It makes it a very big market, because pretty
Yeah.
much every IT shop needs to patch.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, very interesting. And look, I'm on to our final question, and then it's time to wrap up. What one piece of advice would you give to someone entering the cybersecurity industry today?
Yeah, that's a very different in 2026. That's probably the most difficult question, because nothing is ever certain anymore. 5 years ago they said, oh, it's pretty much, yeah, just stay on top of the current technologies, and you'll be fine. But these days things change so quickly. I think probably the most affected jobs are it's going to be in software development. So those people who develop code, that's a tectonic shift, right? So with those code, AI code generation, so people rubber stamping code changing instead of writing code. That's I don't know where that's gonna go. In terms of IT professionals, there's we have, yeah, like you definitely have to stay on top of all these new threats evolving, and be able to utilize the right tools. Because if you're looking at your career growth, and I know everybody wants to grow, so starting as a junior IT person to going into IT manager, going then becoming a CIO or CISO. If when you're in charge of a large IT infrastructure and you need to protect it, you have to be able to look at it from a really wide angle, and protect it from all different kinds of threats. And you have to continuously learn. You have to understand all those technologies, anything from zero trust to compliance aspects to being able to just think it from the attacker standpoint and how you can become the most efficient defender so you can withstand a flurry of those attacks that are that's only getting bigger and bigger. So it is a hard question. I know I probably didn't answer it the way you expected it. No, that's not a simple answer.
No, I think it's interesting. You addressed lots of different groups in security, and it's actually really interesting to hear how you think the current market looks and what advice you give to someone today, because I suppose it might be slightly different to the advice that you would have given or you would have heard when you first started. So yeah, love it. Interesting. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to hear all your thoughts and insights, and a real pleasure having you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Matt. Really enjoyed
Thanks,
it.
Mike.